It's time for Design Appeal. So today we're joined by Tess Post. She's the owner of Beehive Sewing in Northampton. We're making Dad a tie for Father's Day. How cool is that? Thanks for joining us today, Tess.
It's wonderful. I'm so excited. This is a great, easy project. We're going to learn a couple things. The best thing about this project is that you don't even need a paper pattern. I have a pattern over there.
But you don't need to use it.
You can go to Goodwill, buy a tie, open it up from the back. That's going to be your pattern.
And there's your pattern.
And there's your pattern.
Now, Tess was talking a big game earlier. You said, I'm never going to buy a store-bought tie again after this. Is this easy to do?
I think this is easy to do. Very
Okay.
little machine sewing, more getting friendly with your iron, and then doing some hand sewing.
Okay, let's try
So
this.
the one important sewing technique that we're going to talk about that I want to point out is that neckties have fabric that's cut on what's called the bias, which is the diagonal. And the reason is because on a piece of cotton, when we look at a piece of cotton and we try to stretch it out, it's not stretchy.
No.
As soon as we pull on the diagonal, we have some stretch. So
Why is that? Is
Why
it just
is
the way
that?
that it's sewn?
It's the way that woven fabric
with
is.
science, yeah.
So it's just science. Because the necktie needs to wrap around your neck, we've got to cut our fabric on the bias.
Okay.
So our necktie is 3 pieces. We have
Piece
these
one.
great big pieces that we're stitching together. And you can go ahead and stitch that right
Oh,
now if you'd
seriously?
like. Yep.
Oh, God. Okay,
And
here we
all
go.
we're going to do, it's just 2 seams, and then it's just more ironing, and then
Okay.
a little bit more hand sewing.
Now, Tess, you always say this, but I think it bears repeating. Always take your pins out before you sew over them.
It's a best practice. It's a best practice. You may not, and that's okay, but you run a risk. So don't sew over your pins, and then you'll have a much safer sewing experience. So go ahead, lift up the presser foot, pull the work out,
This one?
right over here.
Great question. You're treating me like I have my act together on this.
Seth knows a lot of sewing. So this is our necktie, this
Okay.
great big long thing. It looks pretty wide. This is what's gonna happen when you open up your Goodwill necktie. It's gonna be kind of wide. That's
just
okay.
like this.
Because we're gonna fold it in thirds. So I have a sample here that already has the lining on it. Every necktie, if you flip it over, is gonna have a piece of lining fabric.
Yep.
Yours is the same as the
same
front
color.
of your tie.
It means it's a classy tie, right?
Classy tie.
There we go.
Sometimes we use a fun fabric like a floral, something else. The next step, we're gonna start ironing and folding. So we've got our necktie. You might also notice I have this funky white batting that's in here.
Yeah.
When you open up your Goodwill necktie, you're gonna find a piece of batting or interfacing. And that's important because you want your tie to have a little bit of body.
Just to, okay.
Right, so you don't want to have a totally unlined tie. So all I'm doing is folding it in thirds.
And now, is this where you can get to the skinny tie, like everybody's doing
Yes,
these days?
so you could certainly, if you want a skinny tie,
Is that still popular? Are people still doing it?
I'm not that cool. I
Okay,
don't know.
see, me
I
neither.
don't know.
We
We'll
need to
have
get
to
a
go
cool
out
expert
and
in.
look around town and
See what everybody's doing.
But you could certainly find a skinnier tie, again, at Goodwill, or, you know, there's no right or wrong here. You know,
But
you're
you're
just
following
going
the pattern.
you're going to use whatever size, you know, feels comfortable to you. And pressing a little bit different from ironing. We don't have to move the iron all over our tie. We're just going to count a few seconds, maybe give it a little bit of steam, and then when we go
Now,
ahead.
is this just to keep the pattern in place?
We're actually creating the tie. So once we do that pressing, we're actually making it the size that it's going to be,
Very cool.
the size that we want.
Okay.
So after that, like magic, we have a totally pressed tie.
So we'll press the whole thing in, but I guess my question is, if we look at the inside of this part isn't sewed together yet.
Not yet. That's all by hand.
By hand?
By hand. Even your fanciest ties, they're all sewn by hand.
Technology on sewing machines needs to come a little bit further then.
Maybe. So you wouldn't want a seam down the front, you
That's
know.
true.
That's, I mean, maybe it could be a feature. But so some things that you might need: a hand needle. You may need a thimble.
Right.
You're going to need some good thread. I brought 8 thimbles so that Seth could wear all of them
I don't even
on
know.
every finger.
I don't even know what finger to put the thimble on. Where does it go?
You might want to put it on your middle finger of your right hand.
Sure.
So a necktie is going to use what's called a magic ladder stitch, which is a stitch that we're going to do by hand that's hidden so that you never see the stitching.
It doesn't seem too difficult,
And
actually.
it's not. This is a great project for mothers and daughters, kids and adults, because
Right.
the adult can use the iron, the kid can get some hand sewing experience.
And now, what do you think total the fabric costs? Maybe $5, $10?
$10 to $12, yeah. Because we're cutting on the diagonal, you're gonna need a little bit more fabric than you might think you otherwise would. So it means that every piece that we're cutting out, we're not holding the fabric this way, we're cutting out diagonally this way. So you might need about 2 yards of fabric, maybe 1.5 yards. You can also, and you see some of the samples over there, those have been made with reused fabrics, either table linens, bed linens, something
What
that
an
has a
idea.
really fun pattern on it.
And I know you were saying your husband made this blue one, and his signature stitch is just to put very simple, very easy, right on there, just a little easy stitch.
Exactly. If you have a machine that's got some nice decorative stitches on it and you want to do a little more machine sewing, choose one of your fancy decoratives, do a nice little pattern right on the tie itself before you start your folding, etc. Just put a little star, you know, a little embroidery, and then you have something that's fully personalized,
Great
really
ideas.
nice and customized.
Well, Tess, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thanks for stopping by. And if you want more Father's Day ideas, all you need to do, one place. That's
One
the only
place.
place you need to go. MyMassappeal.com. Ladies and gentlemen, see?
MyMassappeal.com.
Yes, all right.